in this day and age, it's not necessarily required to read in order to properly learn to do something, which is exactly why I'm actually doing this in form of video. Basically, I'm going to show you how exactly to properly report any form of news, whether it be journalism or on TV, on screen, or video. Uh, a lot of people think it might be a bit of a stretch to actually make it simple to actually figure out what you need to be reporting. At the end of the day, it depends on what you deem important and your audience in general. But the easiest way we can break this down would be following the one rule of the five W's and the one H. Now, ultimately, all stories do not have to necessarily have all five W's or the H, but it will have one form or another of that rule itself. So the five W's being who, what, where, when, why, and the one H being how. Um, if you actually want to figure out if you're understanding this concept as well as you should, at least in order to properly write or report the news, the best way I can explain and grasping this better would probably be figuring out small statements or even stories or small articles and analyzing it, seeing if you can identify the important key elements within the story, statement, or article itself. Easy examples as I can think of right now would be, just follow with me for a bit here. Luke Skywalker left Tatooine on the Millennium Falcon to defeat the Empire. Okay, granted, it is Star Wars based, very big hip thing at the moment. I love it. But, anyways, the whole concept there is what in that statement itself is actually correlated with the five W's and the H. So, if you actually pay attention to it, off the jump, we can identify the who being Luke Skywalker. What did he do? He left. Now, you can get very specific about this, and you can actually combine the what and the where put together. He left Tatooine. It's all a matter about how fluid you actually write the article or report the news itself. How he did it, obvious, the Millennium Falcon. Granted, if you want to go into specifics and details, he bought a ride with Obi-Wan, with Han Solo to get off the planet. The why, in this instance, it usually relies back on the idea of who you're trying to report or convey this message to, which isn't necessarily a good thing, at least ethically speaking, in reporting and journalism. But let's say you're reporting this news to the intended audience of soldiers, freedom fighters, if you will. So the proper why here is to defeat the empire. Now, as we all know, we've seen this movie, and he tends to feel like there's no point in him being there anymore. His family was murdered, so he was ready for adventure. He was ready to move on with his life. But for the sake of this statement here, it was to defeat the empire. Now, if you actually pay attention to the actual statement itself, there is no when, but I mean, if you really want to get cheeky about it, if we're just reporting the events of the film itself and not the event as an factual situation, the event of the film, you could literally be as vague as saying early in the film, first act of the film. I mean, if you have the film down to a science, you could be 15 minutes. That could be your when. Now, if this was a when in reality, that would be a little harder to convey considering we took the whole statement more as an actual event and less of reporting about Star Wars as a film, but more about reporting this person as an actual person. This is honestly the best way to actually figure out if you are understanding the concept. Again, you could go into any comic book, any video game, any movie, any song. The briefest article in a magazine, in a newspaper, on Yahoo, online, if you could. It's just a matter of identifying any of those elements: who, what, where, when, why, and ultimately how. If you can get any of that like figured out, obviously, maybe a little bit of working regarding context clues and critical thinking regarding what is actually important. The best way to clarify is just paying attention to the title of the actual article itself. The headline is going to tell you exactly what you should be paying attention to. But if you can get all this, you're well on your way to actually writing the news yourself. Again, depending on your audience, but you're getting the idea off the jump there.